You look at Comcast's earnings base, at the end of the day, this is still primarily a cable business. And that cable business is increasingly driven by broadband, which is really where all the profits are increasingly. So the more we stream, the more you need internet access, the better that is for Comcast broadband business. And I think the market is starting to really pick up on that.
Sure. So you have, meantime, Hulu, which is one of the biggest streaming players, but it's still losing money, still be losing $1 billion or so a year for the foreseeable future. How important strategically is it for Disney to have full ownership of that asset?
Look, I think it would be better and helpful for them if they owned it outright as they try to steer that asset into the future. We think Hulu is an appreciating asset, so owning more of it is probably a positive. The biggest question, I think, for Disney around Hulu is the international opportunity. To the extent that they can own the whole thing, I think that probably clears the path for them to take Hulu outside the United States. But I should say, what that looks like remains to be seen. The rights that Hulu has to content in the United States, they do not have outside the U.S. In fact, most of that content is probably already spoken for, at least in the short term. So Hulu outside the U.S. will look different to the consumer than it does here. But I think owning the whole thing probably increases the chances that Hulu goes global faster.
Interesting. Ben, you guys just did your 9th annual streaming survey. It showed some trends that make sense to me as this industry matures, namely that the big are getting bigger. We often see any new industry consolidating into sort of 4 big players. In this case, those early winners appear to be Netflix, YouTube, Hulu, and Prime Video. So what is someone like Apple going to do to compete? What about Disney? As good as its launch is looking, do you agree that we're heading towards that kind of consolidation or that number of winners?
Yeah, I mean, what we've written is that we think over the long term, there will be a relatively short list of global scaled platforms that can generate a successful amount of profits. We certainly think Disney has a good chance at that. If you look at the survey results, and we had the survey in the field before the Disney Plus details were announced. So we were asking people about a hypothetical product actually at an $8 price point, which is higher than what they're ultimately going to launch with. And we were really encouraged. We saw about 40% of our survey express some level of interest in Disney Plus. And for households with kids, families, that was up to 60%. So you lay that against a 100 million broadband household U.S. market, and then think about the global opportunity.
Sure.
And you can see why everyone's so excited about Disney's plans.
So if it doesn't consolidate into 4 players and we end up having this proliferation of niche players like Disney, which may be bigger than niche, but HBO Now, you mentioned how their usage is down year on year, but obviously they're still there. They're still in the field. Who is going to navigate all of this content for us? I mean, now we're just effectively talking about new channels that you access in a different kind of way.
Yeah, I think for the consumer, this overwhelming feeling of content probably continues for a while as we try to figure out how to curate and help people discover that programming. I mean, one of the things I found really interesting in our survey is when we asked people, how do you figure out what to watch? Over 50%, the number one chosen answer was word of mouth. So you think about the billions of dollars that Netflix and others are spending marketing and promoting their content, which is not to say that isn't having an impact. But at the end of the day, I think we are all feeling a bit overwhelmed by the amount of programming. And for the company or companies that figure out curation and drive discovery, there's clearly an opportunity to create value in the ecosystem there.